Donkey said the world on a level. Imagine a popular beach, a popular local free beach, staying closed for 4 years, while the luxury hotels right next door never missed a single solitary day. They stayed open. Same thing happened in both places, but one suffered consequence, and of course the other one didn't. This is an example of what happens in Jamaica and shows you some of the crises we face in Jamaica today. But the one I want to focus on today is our beach access. In August 2022, the Urban Development Corporation closes Little Dunn's River in St. Ann. Why? A man was unalived on a road nearby, not on the premises, nearby. And them locked down the beach for 4 years. Later that same year, two similar incidents happened near two luxurious hotels, two major hotels in Marley Beach. Did they close those hotels? No. They never closed for a single solitary day. But Little Dunn's River, the free beach, the people them beach, them closed it down for 4 years. That contrast, that incident right there, that tells you exactly who owns Jamaica. According to JABEM, that's the Jamaica Beach Birthright Environmental Movement, only 0.6% of Jamaica's coastline is available to the public. And you hear that? 0.6%. In 2000, Jamaica had 61 hotels, villas, and businesses with private beaches. By 2021, that number had grown to over 300. And by 2030, Jamaica is on track to add over 10,000 new hotel rooms. These include the Hard Rock, the Moon Palace Grand in Montego Bay, and these will all be on the coastline. So what's going to happen? Them just going to take up more of the little bit of the beach where we have for our use. So pretty soon we're not going to have none. Before I go further, tell me something. Have you ever gone to a beach that you used to go into and all of a sudden you notice them either charging you to go in or you don't have access? Anybody? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, so to understand why this keeps happening, we need to take a look at the laws on the book, all right? In 1956, 6 years before independence, Jamaica's colonial government passed the Beach Control Act. This law handed control of Jamaica's coastline to the Crown. And under it, Jamaicans had no right. You hear me? No right to the beach. None. You can't bathe on it. You can't fish in it. You can't even walk along the sand unless you are on a government-declared public beach. And even then, you may have to pay to do that. Later on, Jamaica became independent in 1962. 1962, but the act was not updated until 2004, and even when the act was updated, almost nothing changed for ordinary people. 63 years of independence and we are still governed by a colonial beach law. Because that old colonial law is still on the books, it has paved the way for the battles we are seeing right now in places like Little Dunn's River, which I mentioned earlier, Portland, and Montego Bay. But first, let's take a look at what actually happened at Little Dunn's River in St. Ann. We opened with this one because it is the clearest example of two-tiered Jamaica. One Jamaica for you or one Jamaica for me. It was closed in August 2022. It reopened eventually, but for weekends only. The vendors who relied on that beach for their living were displaced because what am I going to do? You had people who pay for trade license, who paid the taxes. They all lost years of income. JABEM took the UDC to court, and as of early 2026, that case is still ongoing. But it's only 2 days a week that you're allowed to use Little Dunn's River. Imagine that. That is where we are. And yet, the same thing happened down the road at the hotel and them never closed one day. Let me remind them of that. All right, let's move on to the Blue Lagoon in Portland. It is one of the most extraordinary bodies of water in the entire Caribbean. And the communities that have lived around it their whole lives can barely get to it. The parochial road has been blocked by barriers and private security since 2022. As of June 2024, one private landowner agreed to allow public entry between 9 and 5. As a favor, there is nothing in law to protect that access tomorrow if they change their mind. Jabem and local residents have been in Portland Parish Court fighting for access rights under the Prescription Act of 1882. All right, let's move on to Marley Beach, Bull Bay, St. Thomas. I've been there. They now have plans for a hotel development there that would end public access entirely. This would also displace the Rastafari families who have lived in that community for over 50 years. The Jamaica Surfing Association joined Jabem and the local community in court in 2023. Ziggy, Sedella, and Stephen Marley have backed the campaign, even Sizzler Tub fighting for this beach. But again, the case continues. Think about that. Even the family of our biggest icon has had to join in the fight to protect our beaches. Okay, so now let's look at Flanker/Providence Beach, Montego Bay. This is one of the biggest active cases right now. Sandals Resort International has plans to build 18 overwater bungalows, villas, and supporting infrastructure on this stretch of coastline. Now, to do this, they would have to convert wetlands and modify the coastal structure permanently. Now, wetland conversion sounds technical, but let me tell you what it means on the ground, right? The wetlands are natural buffers. They protect the coastline from flooding and storm surge. They are nurseries for fish. They filter the water. When you concrete over wetlands to build resort villas, you're not just taking a beach. You're dismantling a living ecosystem that the entire surrounding community depends on. The fish won't come back. The flooding gets worse, the water quality drops, and once that coastline is restructured to accommodate overwater bungalows, it gone, it done for it done. This is not an inconvenience. It is not just restricted, it's gone. From communities, from White House to Coral Gardens to Ironshore, who have fished, swum, and lived along that beachside for over 60 years. This is not just a development proposal, it is a permanent erasure of a way of life for people who have existed in this community for decades. In May 2025, communities from White House to Coral Gardens to Ironshore showed up at the NEPA Environmental Impact Assessment and said no. Sandals kept going. After this, Jabem filed a lawsuit in the St. James Parish Court in October of 2025. And this is, this is what surprises me. So they looked at all of the laws that were being impacted here. And the one they did not look at in any way, shape, or form, this is the Prescription Act of 1882, the very law that protects the rights to the beach that communities have held for generations. They did not take that into note. So they ignored that one completely. That is not an oversight, that is a choice to say, listen, this law, it don't really matter because it gives you rights. It doesn't give the people that we are trying to protect any rights. So we're going to overlook that one, and we're not going to enforce that one in any way, shape, or form. I'm doing a blog to cover this because there are a lot of legalities that I cannot go into in a video. So there will be a blog on the website. I will link that blog in the description. And if anyone is interested in reading up more, you can go there and find it. So now let's take a look at Winnifred Beach in Portland. This may be considered a win, and we need to hold on to our wins wherever we get them because they are so few and far between. After years of community resistance and a court battle, in 2014, the Ferry Hill community secured the right to use that beach in perpetuity, which means it is ours forever. The Free Winnifred Beach Benevolent Society has managed it ever since. It manages the local vendors, the lifeguards who are trained by residents, and the tourism money is going straight back into the community. But even Winnifred Beach is not fully at rest. The Tourism Enhancement Fund proposed in 2024 a development, but the residents pushed back hard because they have seen too many times how development stories end up in Jamaica. And then there's an incident that just happened in April of 2026, just the other day. This is so recent that the paint has hardly even dried on this one. Right? Someone erected a barbed wire fence right across a section of Negril 7 Mile Beach. It ran all the way from the road, go down to the sea, cutting the beach in two. A hotelier named Winthrop Wellington was on his morning run when he hit the fence and could not pass. He took out his phone, filmed it, and posted it, and the video went viral within hours. The public reaction was immediate and fierce. The UDC, in this case, moved fast. The fence came down the same day. The chairman of the Negril Destination Assurance Council confirmed it was gone and said, and I quote, "Everything is back to normal." Now here's the irony. The man who filmed that video and called it 100% illegal, he is a beachfront hotel owner himself. And his words were, and I quote, "This beach has always been and would always be a public beach." So even when the hoteliers are fighting the battle and saying that the beach belongs to the people, you know that they've had enough. The fence came down in hours, but the fight, it is not over. In March 2026, Prime Minister Holness tabled a new beach access and management policy in the budget debate. He acknowledged the Beach Control Act is inadequate. He pointed to developments on Harmony Beach in Montego Bay. He announced a Negril public beach park and upgrades to beaches in St. Mary, St. James, and St. Anne. And he said something that sounds good on the surface, that new hotel approvals will be tied to public access commitments. But the JABM strongly disagreed with the policy, and they said that it does not solve the problem. Instead, they believe it keeps old colonial-style barriers in place and makes it harder for Jamaicans to fully enjoy their beaches. So this not solve the problem. Their president, Dr. Devon Taylor, has a simple request. He says, get rid of the Beach Control Act completely. He wants a new law that clearly says every Jamaican has a right to access and enjoy the country's coastline. He believes this right should be protected by law and not depend on government policies or promises that can be changed later. Tourism is Jamaica's biggest earner. We are chasing 5 million visitors a year, and every single one of those tourists, they come in, they go to a private beach and have an experience that most Jamaicans in this country will never, ever, ever have access to on their own island. Devon Taylor said it plainly, our cultural ties to these agencies and spaces have been decimated. Natural resources have been transferred to foreign entities. That is the sentence. The beach is not just recreation for us. It's our culture. It's our Sunday tradition. It's where you take your children, where grandmothers teach grandchildren to swim. It is where fish is cooked and dominoes are played and communities breathe after a long week. This is what is being sold off. And we need to be honest about what that costs, not in dollars, but to us as a people. If this is a kind of conversation that you want to keep having, please hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, share, and don't forget to hit the notification bell, because I have a lot more of these videos coming where we look at the discrepancies and the inadequacies that are being foisted on us as a Jamaican people. Next Monday, I'll introduce you to Jamaica's first black millionaire. Please stay tuned. Walk good. My name is Claudette and I am your Jamaican Gypsy Granny. All sources, headlines, and further reading for this video are linked in the description below. Every case, every court case, every law we mentioned is right there for you. Go check it out. Thanks for watching. Ciao.